Alright, hey, how's it going, class? Alright, we're coming at you from chapter 3, and we're moving on to learning about plants. So let's check out some plants. The first thing we're going to ask, and again, if you're following along, this is chapter 3, lesson 1, page 84. First thing we're going to ask, what is a plant? So what actually makes a plant? One of the very first and most important things about plants, what makes them very special, is that these plants are all going to do photosynthesis. This is their primary means of getting food. And the food that plants make is they actually make glucose. They're able to make this type of sugar inside their leaves and be able to transport it so they can feed themselves. So again, if you ever hear anybody saying something like, oh, I gotta go feed and water my plants, they're lying to you. Because you can water a plant, but you can't feed it. A plant will feed itself. You can give it nutrients to help it make food, but the plants are always going to be feeding themselves, making their own glucose. Now, the way that they do this is they have different structures that are inside the leaves that help them do this. Yeah, that kind of came off weird. They're going to have a little structure called a chloroplast. And this thing is inside in each of their leaf cells. And the chloroplast, what it's going to do is it's actually going to trap the sun's energy and convert it into glucose. Now, the way that they're able to take in the energy is through this stuff. Chlorophyll. So chlorophyll is inside the chloroplast. This helps capture light, and this is almost like the factory for making the glucose. So again, chloroplast is that little factory. Inside it has chlorophyll. Now chlorophyll is also going to do something special. It's going to make the plant actually green. It gives it its green pigment. So the reason why you look at leaves and you see them as green is because of this chlorophyll right here. Or if it's a different color, they have different types of chlorophylls absorbing different types of sunlight. But the big one we're going to see is the green color. Now, moving on from that, you can all probably go ahead and guess. Now, if I asked you, are these guys going to be autotrophs or heterotrophs, you better all be able to tell me that they're autotrophs because they can automatically make their own food. They're self-feeders. Plants are also, a special quality about them is they're multicellular. That means they have many cells that are working together with different structures that each of them expresses in order to take it out. Because you can look at a plant leaf. So let's draw a really bad plant leaf. And you can look at a root system. So let's say here's a plant root. Do these look the same? Are they even the same color? Do they do the same function? The answer is no. There's actually a lot of differences about them. So these cells are going to be different from these cells. And even in the root, you'll have these cells on the tip are actually going to be different than the cells back here. You're going to find out that the cells out here are actually different from the stem cells that you have right there. And each of them has their own little specialized assignment that they do to help the plant live. Now, they're also inside, they're going to have a very important structure. So let's say we take one of the cells and we blow it up. One of these cells is going to have inside of it a vacuole. What a vacuole does is it actually stores excess water, and it allows the plant to store extra water if it needs it, or get rid of extra materials and waste if it doesn't want to have this anymore. So if we're going to look at what a plant needs to survive, you can obviously already point out that it's obviously going to have to need sunlight, and it's also going to need other nutrients. Again, you can't feed a plant, but you can give it the nutrients it needs in order to make its own food. They're going to have leaves, a way of capturing the sunlight. They're also going to have a root system. And if you're looking on page 87, you can see how you have two different types of root systems that work within plants. Now, an important thing about plants is they need water. Water and CO2 are essential for a plant in order to make glucose and to give off oxygen. So plants have special ways of actually retaining water. One of those things they use something called a cuticle. What a cuticle does is it's a wax layer that actually lays on the outside of the plant leaf. Because remember, the plant leaf is the one that's exposed to the sunlight, so it's going to dry out the fastest. But if you ever feel a plant leaf, especially here in Vegas, it's going to feel very waxy. Because it's a nice thick layer, so water really can't get out. Now, how do they stand up? Again, they're going to need a stem, they're going to need something strong in order to keep it up. You'll also notice with their cells is they have something called a cell wall. That's why when you bite into plants, or you break plants, they sound really crunchy. Remember, they don't have a skeletal system, so they use a cell wall for support. Now, how do they transport their materials throughout the plant? Because a lot of times you get trees that are huge. So the way that they transport is through these tissues called vascular tissue. Sorry, I know that writing's terrible. You probably heard of the word vascular tissue before when we were talking about humans. Well, they have vascular tissue as well, but they have different types. The two types they're going to have is they're going to have xylem and phloem. Now xylem, this is in charge of mostly transporting water, whereas phloem's mostly in charge of transporting food and nutrients. So when it does photosynthesis of the leaves, it can bring the food down to the roots. When the roots absorb water, because remember, they don't absorb water at the leaves, they only absorb it at the roots. It can suck it up with the xylem and bring it to the leaves. Now the best way to remember xylem is this, WXYZ. Now you remember W for water, XY for how to spell it, and Z for how to pronounce it, so xylem. For phloem, that PH makes the F sound, so phloem, food. And that's the vascular tissue that it can do. Now the other thing is, it talks on page 89 about reproduction. We're going to talk about that more with plants in another lesson. So that's all it is for right now. Again, remember, we're going to want to know about the vascular tissue. We're going to want to be paying attention to the fact that, again, they need sunlight, they need nutrients, they need a root system so they can get the water, because they need water and CO2 in order to make the food glucose. The reason that they have such good support and structures because they have a cell wall, and again, that root system keeps them from falling over. They have that cuticle, a nice wax layer that helps trap water inside so it doesn't lose it. Remember, they're multicellular, they have a vacuole which can store water, their cells are different. These guys are going to be autotrophs. Their food is going to be glucose, and they use chloroplasts as the factories, which have little parts called chlorophyll, which give it green pigment and help absorb the sunlight. Alright, so if you have any questions, just please contact me, and until next time, I'll talk to you later. Bye.